Hi everybody and welcome to English with Miss V. Today we're bringing it back to basics. Take something to write with and some paper because today is all about affirmative versus negative. We're talking about present simple tense. So again, back to basics, and we're looking at affirmative, that means positive, versus negative. This is how we talk about what we do and what we don't do in the present simple tense. So stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss out. Okay, pay attention, everybody. So let's look at affirmative first. Remember, affirmative means positive. Let's have a look at some positive sentences in a moment. Now, you want to use this to say what is true and what you do. So we're talking about what you do. So to do that, you will want to use the base verb. Now, the base verb means that it is the verb in its simplest form, okay? So there's no prefix or suffix. It's just in its simplest form, like the shortest version of that word, okay? So we call that the root word or the base word. And when we're talking about present simple tense, we want to use the base verb. It doesn't change. Make no changes to the base verb. Let's have a look at some examples so you don't get confused. So, I work in an office, okay? So we're talking about things that are true or things that you do. I work in an office. You live in Rome. We like coffee. They play football. So we have I, you, we, they, okay? And nothing has really changed, all right? But look at these verbs. Work, live, like, play. All of those verbs are in their simplest form, okay? We don't say I working in an office, okay? Working isn't this verb in its simplest form. So just remember, the verb, needs to be in its simplest, shortest form, okay? Again, work, live, like, play. They play, we like, you live, I work. These are all affirmatives. Now, something does change. Something very small changes when we start talking about he, she, or it. But it's not a big deal, so don't worry. All you have to do is add S to the verb. So the verb is still in its simplest form, but you're going to add S. Have a listen. He works in an office. She lives in Rome. It rains a lot here. Okay? So it rains, she lives, he works. All I did was add S to these verbs. Those verbs are still in their shortest, simplest form, but I've added S because it's he, she, and it. Now, if you didn't watch my lesson on how to conjugate common verbs, go back, find that lesson, and watch it because this would probably make more sense to you. Let's move on. Let's now talk about the negative sentences, okay? Now, when we are talking about negative sentences, so things you do not do, we use do not or does not. So remember that. Do not, does not, plus the base verb, okay? So base verb or simple verb in its shortest form. Maybe you want to call it the short verb, if that helps you remember, okay? So again, negative sentences, we're using do not or does not plus the base verb. That's like the formula. Let's have a look at some examples of the negative form of these sentences, okay? So, I do not work on Sundays. You do not live here. We do not like coffee. So all I've done is add do not, do not, do not before the verb. Look at where the verb is. Work, live, like. All right? And the verb comes after the do not, do not, do not. Okay? So it's do not plus the base verb, the short verb, remember, okay? So have a look at these sentences, write them down because you'll need to remember this special formula. When you add the negative, when you're saying do not or does not, the verb comes after and the verb is still in its simplest form. Okay, let's have a look at negative when we're using he, she, it. Okay, this one kind of always changes, unfortunately. So you're going to use does not. Okay, so the only thing that changed was we're going from do not to does not. Okay, plus the base verb, short verb. So still the same, but different. Does not. Write that down. Does not. Okay. Do not, under any circumstances, add S to the verb. Please do not do that. Do not add S to the verb. And you'll see why in a minute. Again, we're going to use does not plus the base verb. Watch this. He does not work on Sundays. She does not live here. It does not rain much. So these are does not, because I'm using he, she, and it. So I'm using does not instead of do not. All right. So do not is for I, you, and we. Okay. And they as well. And does not is for he, she, it. Do not add S to the end of these verbs, okay? You don't say he does not works on Sundays, okay? That doesn't make sense. Now, I'm saying this, everybody, because it is a very common mistake. Many times I hear this. He doesn't works. That doesn't make sense. We don't say he doesn't works. We say he doesn't work. Sometimes people get confused because remember at the beginning when we were talking about affirmative, we add S to the verb. He works. She lives. Okay, so in this case we did add S, but not anymore. Not when we're talking about the negative. Okay, he does not work. She does not live here. Okay, not he doesn't works. Now, in case you're wondering, doesn't is what we call a contraction, okay? A contraction is when two words get smooshed together and become one. So doesn't is a contraction form of does not, okay? So when you marry does and not together, it becomes doesn't. Now, do you remember what do not becomes? Don't, okay? Don't is what do not becomes. And we use that all the time. I don't like it. I don't live here. So very common to use these contractions, okay? So please do not say he doesn't works. Don't get confused, okay, with the positive sentences we looked at before. He doesn't work. That is correct. All right, let's look at some more mistakes. He don't work on weekends. No, another one that I hear all the time. We don't say he don't, she don't. Remember that one is a little bit different. When you're saying he, she, or it, it's he doesn't work on weekends. He doesn't. All right? We don't say she don't like coffee. We say she doesn't like coffee. So just be very careful, okay? Go back and write those sentences down, those examples, so that you can remember when to use which words. Okay, it's time for a little bit of a practice. Let's have a look here. I want us all to have a go at changing these sentences from positive to negative sentences by adding do not or does not, or don't, doesn't, okay, the contractions. So these are all positive. I work on Sundays. She lives in Rome. They like coffee. So if I wanted to make these negative sentences, okay, because at the moment they're affirmative. If I wanted to make them negative sentences, what would I have to do and where would I have to put it? Let's have a look. So, I work on Sundays. What would I say to make it negative? I would say, I don't work on Sundays. Or you can say, I do not. Okay, so remember that word goes just before the verb. I don't. I'm going to do the contraction. Okay, don't means the same as do not. I don't work on Sundays. She lives in Rome. She, remember what I do when I'm using she, he, or it? I say, she doesn't. Now this one's tricky because it becomes negative. What do I need to do? This is a big challenge. Do I say she doesn't lives in Rome? No. What was our rule before? What do you never do? Don't add S to the verb for he, she, it in the negative sentences, okay? She doesn't live in Rome. Listen again. She doesn't live in Rome, okay? Remember that rule, super important. Don't add S, okay, to these negative verbs here when you're using she, he, and it. She doesn't live in Rome. So cross out that S. All right. They like coffee. What do I change? They don't like coffee. They don't like coffee. She doesn't live in Rome. I don't work on Sundays. So those were a little practice for you to understand what happens when we go from positive to negative or from affirmative to negative. Now, everybody, your final challenge is this. What I would like you to do on some paper or in your notepad is to write one affirmative and one negative sentence. It can be a very basic sentence. I want you to tell me something that you do and something that you don't do. So I might say, I live in Rome for my positive affirmative sentence. And for my negative one, I might do or say, I don't eat oysters, which is true. So one sentence for an affirmative and one sentence for a negative. Have a go. If you want to write more sentences, go for it. If you want to leave them in the comments, even better. Well, everybody, that's all we have time for today. Hopefully you all have a better understanding of affirmative and negative sentences now. And don't forget to go to missvenglish.com to book your one-on-one session with me. Click that bell so that you don't miss out on any other lessons that are coming your way. So I'll see you all next week. Practice makes progress.